America wants to know, who is Johnny Manziel? Because after all, he can't really talk to the media. Welcome into the Sporting News Studios. I'm Tom Vandervoort with someone who actually knows a little bit about Johnny Manziel, football editor John Turner. And John, I got to ask you, you actually covered Manziel in high school. And what was the point where you said to yourself, this guy's a special player?
You know, I'd been warned about him before I got out there. At the very first practice, they said, there's a kid out here you're going to want to watch. And I remember going out there and, I wonder what kid it is. And you pretty much find out from the first play he's the guy running around in the backfield making tacklers miss. And it was an adventure every game watching him. It was really exciting.
Yeah, so he runs the ball a lot. In the high school video footage we're going to see right now, he runs the ball a lot, throws the ball, throw the ball a lot on the run. Accounted for how many touchdowns in 2.5 years there?
Something like 160 touchdowns in 2.5 years of varsity.
70, 80 a year here? I mean, that's ridiculous.
That's pretty much what it was. But when the ball was in his hands just about every play, that's how they ran their offense. And like you said, they'd move him around out of the pocket. He wasn't standing back there like he does quite a bit at A&M. He was running left and throwing across his body, running right and throwing on rollouts. He caught touchdowns, he rushed for touchdowns, he had kick returns, punt returns. It was that high school mentality of take your best player and let him put the ball in the end zone.
Right, and you told me that when it came crunch time, the plan was?
Johnny left or Johnny right. Those were your two options.
Right, exactly. Now, talk to me a little bit about why maybe some colleges passed on him, because you were saying it was a while before he actually got a commitment from A&M.
Yeah, actually, he first committed to Oregon, and that wasn't until June, the summer before his senior year, which if you're familiar with the recruiting cycle, that's way late in the game. But plenty of scouts came out, and in many instances they're looking for a guy who's 6'3", 6'4", what they found was a guy who's 6 foot 6'1", and they're looking for a guy who's going to stand back in the pocket and throw. And as we said, he's rolling out quite a bit, kind of an unorthodox throwing style in many instances. And
got like a sidearm action.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Very much so. And you'll see him still drop down to that sidearm at A&M, almost in crunch time.
Well, that play against Alabama, where the ball comes out of his hands and he rolls to the left and makes that throw back to the right, was very reminiscent of what we saw in the high school.
Yeah, that was vintage Tyvee Johnny Manziel. Almost the best thing he used to do is he'd drop back, take his drop, and then he'd run forward 2 or 3 steps and kind of disappear into that pile. And then you'd say, where'd he go? And then he'd do that spin move out, and he'd either roll out and run or hit someone throwing on the run. And that's how he accumulated all those yards in high school.
Talk to him about as a team leader and a person. What can you tell us about that aspect of Johnny?
Well, that's the first thing they bring up is his charisma. He makes players around him better. He makes his teammates better. He's coachable. He's very smart. Talking about before games, he's all business. He's in his little cubby hole, going over his 2-minute drill and trying to be a step ahead. He's a perfectionist in practice. He's not yelling at guys, but he's making sure things are done the right way and for the right reasons. You know, there's a reason that a guy who's a redshirt freshman is having all this success, and a lot of it is natural ability, but his preparation is great, and his attention to detail is extraordinary.
You know, the other thing I noticed, if you look at kind of his career thus far, just this season obviously, started out very well, had a very tough game against LSU, 3 interceptions, they lose that game, but if you look at his stats and his play after that, he really bounced back and the team really bounced back.
It is, and in the highlights, in those high school highlights, number 10 is his primary receiver, Mikhail Ironside. They're still very close, and Mikhail told me that he asked Johnny what his greatest regret was so far in his season, and he said without hesitation, his decision-making in the LSU game, that really got to him. He's, like I said, he's someone who's very heady, and he wants to put himself in the right place. He's scared to death of doing the wrong thing on the field, and that, I think that game was kind of an eye-opener for him, that to compete against the very best, and LSU's defense is the very best, you have to prepare like the very best. And clearly, with the victory over Alabama, the consensus #1 team, that's shown. And his maturation through this year has been remarkable, even for those of us who did know that maybe something special was coming.
Well, you know, the last thing I noticed is that agility and that speed that allowed him to make plays in high school it still allows him to make plays. He's certainly not
Yeah.
overmatched in terms of physical ability. He's extremely elusive, extremely agile, and extremely fast for a college football player.
He is fast, and that's another one of the knocks on him was that maybe coaches thought that he was a guy that just happened to line up under center, who could run around a little bit and would throw. Some of those tacklers he was eluding were just high school kids.
Right.
But make no mistake, he was playing some of the best defenses in the state of Texas, which has some of the best football players in the country. And he was making some of these guys look silly in
Yeah.
high school. You know, he has I saw him run for 99-yard touchdown on a QB sneak on his own 1 yard line. He was the only kind of guy who could do that. Who else does that? And so to see it translate to the next level to this extent is remarkable for sure. But in general, the elusiveness and the kind of ability to make something out of nothing,
Yeah.
that's something that people in Central Texas have seen quite a bit of, especially as opponents. They're not surprised by that at all.
And they're going to see a lot more of it in the SEC. All right, thanks for coming in, John. Really appreciate your time. That's going to do it for now. From the Sporting News Studios, I'm Tom Vandervoort. Thanks for watching.